All right, Ralph, let's start off by talking about, first of all, the budget. The finance minister is going to join me in about 25 minutes, so I have some questions to ask. You saw the numbers yesterday.
Yes.
I would ask for your reaction overall, and to one specific point, this idea of, you know what, it really seems the CAC does not care about Montreal in this budget.
Well, it was criticized on many aspects regarding what we need here in Montreal, in the greater Montreal area. First off, let's talk about public transit. The STM said today that the sums that are planned in the budget for maintaining our current infrastructure are insufficient. And you know what? In politics, it's a recurring problem we have because it's not sexy in politics to maintain current infrastructure. It's always sexy to cut ribbons and to open new stations and stuff like that. But when you need to maintain the current infrastructure, nobody wants to invest in that because it's something people don't really see, and it doesn't change the issue of the vote in an election. So the STM said today that we don't have sufficient funds to ensure, and we have lots of stations that have already a low the situation in lots of those stations across the network in Montreal is it's in very bad shape right now. So we need to invest in those stations to ensure that we don't have to eventually, like we have seen, remember, like was it last year or 2 years ago, we had to for some time close a station. I think it was on the blue line of the metro because there were leaks, and there was some risks also to users inside the station. So we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and we need to invest properly in our metro system. The other one is the Hôpital Maisonneuve-Rosemont in the eastern part of the city. No plan at the moment, no new money to invest. It needs to be completely rebuilt. For those at home who don't know the situation at Maisonneuve-Rosemont, just know that there are squirrels living inside the hospital. Imagine, you're waiting for your surgery and you see squirrels running across the hallway inside the hospital. So it tells you the situation, how bad the building is at the moment. It needs to be completely rebuilt. We've been talking about this for years.
Exactly. And still, we are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later with no actual plan.
The government says apparently they're not ready yet to announce investments. The project is still under planning, and so that's why it's not included in the budget. I mean, we've been talking about this for so long. It should be a priority right now for the government.
By the way, this is if I understand, the biggest hospital, I mean, the busiest hospital in the entire province.
Absolutely. And
still no plan.
And there's mold, there's leaks, there's infrastructural problems. I mean, we really need to invest in Maisonneuve-Rosemont. It's a major hospital. It's very important for the community of Eastern Montreal, and it's sad that we don't see this government taking this more seriously.
Can I just really quickly, can I touch on this $250 million, I don't know what we call it, slush fund, gift?
Charles Ménard yesterday, he was interviewed on Radio-Canada, and he had an interesting expression to describe it. He called it the CFB, the Coussin Fréchette Drainville. I thought it was brilliant.
The who Fréchette?
The coussin, so the pad for Fréchette or Drainville to pick some money there and invest in whatever they want when they're going to be elected as premier.
I asked you have you ever seen anything like this where they leave money for? I mean, not that we've had a premier resign midterm, but ever seen that?
Well, we haven't seen a premier resign midterm since Lucien Bouchard at the beginning of the millennium, so it's been a while. It's been 25 years.
Anyone leave his next successor $250 million?
No? Well, his next successor at the time, if I recall, was Bernard Landry, who was the finance minister, so he knew what was in the budget already. But no, I think it's quite unusual, of course. It's certainly something that they could use for tax breaks. Or they could decide, like the Legault government has done before, they could send checks to the population just ahead of the next election, to saying, of course, they're going to say, it's to help people better cope with the rising cost of living and inflation, of course. But I mean, yes, it's certainly something that could use in view of the next election.
So I did some quick math, which is probably wrong.
Yes.
But if it's $250 million, they want to send a check out to Quebecers, right? Assuming that's roughly, 60% of Quebecers pay tax, ballpark, but 9 million Quebecers, so that's roughly 5.5 million or 5 million perhaps would get checks. They each get $50. I don't think that's going to do it.
Well, I mean, $50 is $50.
Really?
And in those days,
Can I buy your vote for $50?
No, certainly not. Not mine, actually. But still, if you consider, wait, 250 million divided by 5 million, that's 500 actually.
Maybe I did the math wrong. I just figured
I'm really bad at math.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for our listeners. Okay. But if it's 500, then it makes a whole world difference. Let's not forget that nearly half of the population of this province is $200 short of insolvability.
Yeah.
So if you have $5 more in your pocket at the end of the day, it makes a whole world of difference.
Okay. I'm not going to do the math now, but I'll figure it out. Pierre Poilievre joins Joe Rogan on his podcast. It was released this afternoon. I asked our listeners about this. What's your take on this? Was this a good idea, bad idea, or just doesn't matter one way or the other?
I would say bad idea. Bad idea mostly because it's about who you associate yourself with. And Joe Rogan, let's not forget, supported Donald Trump in the last election. He sided with anti-vax people during the pandemic. He propagated misinformation and conspiracy theories many times before. So for someone like Pierre Poilievre to go and associate himself with someone like Joe Rogan, what message does it send to Canadian voters on this side of the border? I understand there's people saying, oh, well, you know what, Joe Rogan, it's the most listened to and watched podcast in the entire world. So it's a large audience to talk to, especially MAGA supporters, to tell them tariffs are bad and let's bring back free trade between our two countries. I get that. But are you really going to convince them as the leader of the opposition of Canada? Is it really going to make a difference in the minds of a lot of MAGA voters, of Trump supporters? And at the same time...
Aren't those people already your supporters?
Well, MAGA supporters...
Are Pierre Poilievre supporters? They're not Mark Carney supporters.
They're certainly not not supporters of Canada. They're supporters of Donald Trump and America First. That's what made them vote for Donald Trump in the first place. So I don't think you're going to convince anyone there, first of all. And second of all, who is Pierre Poilievre to go and speak on behalf of Canada on the international stage? He's the leader of the official opposition. He didn't get a mandate in the last election to represent Canada in the U.S. So I would say, you know what, Pierre, just stay home. Give as many interviews as you want to Canadian media, to Canadian podcasts if you want. But American podcasts, you're wasting your time there. You're not going to convince anyone in the end. And I don't think he was really there to try and convince the Americans. I think he was there mostly to show Canadians that he was there to defend Canada and to defend free trade.
But isn't that a good thing?
Well, it's a good thing that he does that, but I don't think it's going to convince anyone on the American side. And on the other one, again, it's about who you associate yourself with. Let's not forget, Joe Rogan is someone who called Justin Trudeau a dictator,
communist.
A communist.
Yeah.
He accused Volodymyr Zelensky of wanting to launch a third world war. So it's a slippery slope in my point of view. And let's not forget also that Pierre Poilievre sided with anti-vax voters in the past to win the leadership of the Conservatives. It's still following him. It's still sticking to his brand today. And that's one of the reasons why many Canadians were reluctant to vote for the Conservative Party in the last election, is because they see him as being too close, ideologically speaking, to the MAGA movement. And by doing so, I think he's reinforcing that perception in the minds of many Canadians.
I'm kind of with you on that. And to me, it's like it's an echo chamber. You know, the people he's talking to are these people who already are his supporters to begin with. How many people are you going to convince? And I think Jimeni brought it up. Of the viewers, there's roughly 3 million Canadians who'll be watching that podcast. Right. I would guess most of them either already support Pierre Poilievre. I'm not sure there's any independents who are going to look at that.
Or they don't vote.
Or they don't vote.
Politically disengaged.
And are going to say, well, that's my guy. I like the way I saw him. I will say, in a 2.5-hour format, it's a lot different than having a guy stand up and just spout, some boilerplate slogan, which is what too many Canadians have seen him do in the past. Maybe he does himself a favor that way, but I can't imagine it moves the needle very much.
Well, absolutely. I agree with you. And I didn't hear, from what I've heard, I didn't watch the whole thing, but from what I've heard, there was nothing very different from what we have heard from Pierre Poilievre before. So it was 2 hours and a half of Pierre Poilievre repeating basically the same things we've heard out of his mouth before.
Last thing before I let you go, I haven't talked about this at all. I know we played the clip on the news. Donald Trump today, quite the awkward moment. So the Japanese president is with
Prime Minister
is in the Oval Office with him. And I guess the question comes up from a journalist there asking why he did not consult with other countries before invading Iran. Do we have this clip, by the way? We do? Okay.
Let's have a listen.
This is what, believe it or not, Donald Trump actually said.
Why didn't you tell U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think, much more so than us.
I'm sitting here shaking my head. I can't believe he did the Pearl Harbor thing, but tell me, what do you think?
And sadly, we don't see it on the radio, but the face of the Japanese Prime Minister sitting by his side was priceless. She was not believing what she just heard. I mean, the incident speaks volumes about how Donald Trump doesn't have any respect anymore for his traditional allies. And if you're really comparing your attack on Iran to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, well, let's not forget that Pearl Harbor triggered the U.S. to enter the Second World War, and this led to the defeat of the Japanese in that same war, and eventually to Nagasaki and Hiroshima being completely wiped off the face of the earth with nuclear bombs. So do you really want the comparison to be drawn here between Iran and Pearl Harbor? It's really mesmerizing.
I can't imagine how uncomfortable it must have been in that room after he said that.
It's no longer the White House, Aaron. It's the madhouse.
Yeah. Raphael, thank you. Appreciate you coming in. By the way, I checked. It's $50, not $500.
$50, really?
Yeah.
Well, not enough.
Yeah, not enough to get your vote, or apparently anyone else's.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites, all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.